we may be entering perhaps this new era of what I like to call digital biology.
Demis Hassabis, the founder of Deepmind and one of the most prominent minds in artificial intelligence, predicts that we are entering the era of digital biology. So what is digital biology and how is it going to change scientific discovery? The future is looking bright and Demis breaks it all down. Let's watch together. Now, the first part I want to show you is him commenting on what makes a really good problem for artificial intelligence, because not all problems are well suited for it, but there is a specific set of criteria that makes a problem really, really appropriate for artificial intelligence. So let's watch.
So what then makes for a suitable problem for these kind of AI methods to tackle? Well, we look for kind of three criteria that make a problem suitable. Number one, finding a path through a massively combinatorial search space. Can the problem be couched in these terms? Secondly, can we specify a clear objective function or metric to optimize or hill climb against? So in games, this is pretty easy. It's winning the game or maximizing the score. And then thirdly, are there a lot of data available to learn the neural network model? And ideally but it could be or, an accurate and efficient simulator to generate more synthetic data in distribution.
Now, if you think about the game Go, which Deepmind is famous for basically beating the best human on Earth a few years ago, the game Go is actually a perfect example of these three criteria. One, it does have a massive combinatorial search space. And to give you a sense of how big the search space for Go is, how many different positions there can be, he actually talked about it a few slides ago. There are 10 to the 170th possible positions, which is greater than the number of atoms in the entire universe. So really, traditional computing cannot just brute force it. And that's why AI is a perfect tool to use. Number two, it has a clear objective function. How do you know what to optimize against? How do you know whether to tell the AI model, yes, this is good, or no, this is bad? In Go, it's perfect. You either win or you lose. And then three, lots of data or the ability to create synthetic data. That's what he means by an accurate and efficient simulator. So in Go, they can play a lot of games by just playing a lot of games using computers. And there's also a lot of game data online already. All right, so next he's going to talk about protein folding and why it's a perfect problem for artificial intelligence and really what it is and how he solved it. And it's really good to know this leading into why AI is going to be a perfect tool for scientific discovery in the future. So let's watch.
So as you heard earlier, proteins are the building blocks of life. Almost all biological processes and every living thing depend on proteins for their operation, from the twitching of your muscle fibers to the firing of your neurons. So in essence, you can think of proteins as these kind of exquisite nanoscale biomachines. And they're, of course, extraordinarily beautiful as well. So proteins, as we heard earlier, are specified by their amino acid sequence, which you can see an example of one here on the left. And these sequences fold up into complex 3D structures. For example, this one here folds into this beautiful structure on the right. So you can think of it like a string of beads that kind of scrunch up into a ball. And knowing the 3D structure of a protein tells you a lot about its function, and is, of course, critical for things like understanding disease and accelerating drug discovery.
So that's the basis for why protein folding is important. And here's the thing, similar to Go, there are essentially an infinite number of ways to fold proteins. And each one does something different. And this is a 50-year-old problem trying to predict what the folding of a protein is going to do and what it might look like and how it behaves. And for a long time, they were using traditional brute force techniques. And there was something called folding at home, which was a little piece of software you installed in your computer and you basically contributed a small piece of your home computer's compute ability. And then a bunch of people throughout the world did this and we were able to discover a lot of proteins like that. But then AlphaFold essentially solved the problem and we're able to predict proteins with insane accuracy. Thanks to Emergen AI for partnering with me on this video. If you've watched this channel at all, you know I'm bullish on agents and especially agents that can accomplish real world tasks for you. That's why I'm excited to tell you about Emergen AI. Emergen Emergen AI just launched their enterprise-grade multi-agent orchestrator, and they showed off the first demo of a real-world use case where these agents can actually browse the web on your behalf. This is enhanced web automation. This means multiple agents can go out and dynamically interact with different elements on the web under this intelligent orchestration to bring human-like interaction and navigation, but at machine level scale. And what's really cool about this is these agents can actually perform complex and sophisticated web interactions that previously required a human. They can navigate dynamic early loading menus, fill out forms, adjust settings, process embedded files, and extract relevant data from PDFs and HTML. Emergen AI's orchestrator offers a combination of design time flexibility and runtime determinism. That basically means that these agents can heal themselves. So if it makes a mistake along the way, it can figure it out and then succeed on the next try. And Emergen AI has put a huge emphasis on privacy and security. They offer a fully hosted solution where you can access it via API, or you can host it on your own virtual private cloud. So if you're an enterprise business and you're looking to automate a lot of your processes, Emergen AI is a great solution. Integrate their agent API and seamlessly orchestrate multiple agents to accomplish tasks for you and your business. This includes interacting with both modern and legacy enterprise applications. So Emergen AI is just starting to invite developers to try out their platform. Definitely check them out. Tell them I sent you, of course. Go to their website, emergence.ai, or simply email them, contact@emergence.ai. I'll drop all of the links in the description below. So thank you again to Emergen AI for partnering with me on this video. Now, back to the video.
And if you look at this bar chart of progress, this is basically the winning score for the top team each edition of CASP as a kind of distance measure of how accurate the prediction is compared to the ground truth. And you can see for about a decade prior, there hadn't been much progress in increasing the accuracy of these predictions.
So this just shows you basically from 2006 all the way to 2016 for the previous decade, there had been really very little to no progress. And then AI took over, and we're seeing this drastic increase in accuracy against the ground truth of what it actually looks like, the protein. And so here's AlphaFold actually beating this 90% mark, which is an incredible, incredible achievement. All right, now let's move on to what science might look like and scientific discovery with the help of artificial intelligence in the future. So let's see what he has to say.
We may be entering perhaps this new era of what I like to call digital biology. I've always thought of biology at its most fundamental level can be thought of as an information processing system, albeit a phenomenally complex and emergent one. And just, I think it's such a complex system, it's going to be hard to boil down the workings of biology to a few mathematical equations. So I think maths has been an incredible tool to describe sort of description language for physical phenomena, for physics. And I think in the same way, AI may be potentially the perfect description language for biology. And we hope that AlphaFold is a kind of proof point that could, when we look back maybe in 10 or 20 years' time, maybe helped usher in this new era of digital biology. And we're trying to contribute to that, where we recently spun out, a couple of years ago, Isomorphic Labs, a new company to build on AlphaFold and to reimagine the drug discovery process from first principles with AI. And perhaps we can reduce down drug discovery, which is an incredibly difficult and time-consuming and expensive process, down from years to perhaps months, or maybe even one day, weeks. And we sometimes think of this kind of accelerated process that I've just shown you with AlphaFold and the protein structures.
So he kind of just continues on after saying that completely incredible statement that we are going to potentially be able to reduce drug discovery. So anything from cancer drugs to the cure for the common cold to anything, all the way from potentially years and millions and billions of dollars down to months and potentially even weeks. And that is a really amazing vision for the future.
And perhaps one day will happen with drug discovery as sort of doing science at digital speed. And I've had a long-standing dream, actually, to think maybe one day be able to simulate a whole virtual cell, not just a protein or a couple of proteins interacting with each other, but an entire cell, and then those predictions would be useful for experimentalists.
And do you remember that simulated worm video that I made a few months back? It used artificial intelligence to simulate what a worm would do. And this worm was very simple. It just had a few dozen neurons, if I remember correctly. And the human cell obviously is much more complex, but the idea that we might be able to actually simulate a human cell and its interactions with different drugs or anything, really, viruses, anything, is just another layer of what artificial intelligence can do for us in the future. All right, and next, he's going to talk about quantum computing, but first, he's going to talk about the limitations of classical computing. And when we say classical computing, that's what you're using with your phone, your computer on your desk. Basically, everything we know with bits, ones and zeros. And quantum computing is going to change that. And speaking of quantum computing, Google, who owns Deepmind, also just released a few weeks ago Willow, which was the first time where when we increased the number of qubits in a quantum system, it actually decreased the error rate exponentially. Very cool stuff, and finally unlocks the ability to use quantum in a production environment.
So perhaps I'll end then, given this is a Nobel lecture, I thought I would end with a couple of new, perhaps slightly provocative ideas in the spirit of Christian Anfinsen and his 1972 lecture. So ever since doing AlphaGo, actually, I've been thinking a lot about what are the limits of classical systems, classical computing systems. And you know, I think there's a big debate going on at the moment in computing circles about quantum computers versus classical systems. And I think classical Turing machines, basically the underpinnings of modern computers today, I think can do a lot more than we probably previously thought. And how can they do that? Well, they do that by perhaps doing this massive amount of pre-compute ahead of time and use that to develop a good model of the environment, a good model of the problem that you're trying to solve. And then you can use this model to efficiently explore a solution space in polynomial time, what's called polynomial time in complexity theory, so an efficient amount of time. So I sort of loosely proposed conjecture that I'm thinking about is that maybe any pattern or structure that can be generated or found in nature can be efficiently discovered and modeled by a classical learning algorithm. That doesn't mean everything, all quantum systems, because there'll be lots of things that don't occur in nature that have no pattern or no underlying structure to learn. So for example, factorizing large numbers or abstract problems like that. But I think systems in nature, like proteins and perhaps materials, will potentially have structure that can be learned by these kinds of processes that I've outlined today. And if it turns out that classical systems then, therefore, can model some types of quantum systems, I think that could have some quite big implications for areas like complexity theory, including P equals MP, and maybe even some aspects of fundamental physics, like information theory.
And so with traditional brute force methods, we weren't able to solve a lot of these complex problems that he's describing. However, when we use that compute up front to create this prediction model, AI, it allows us to use traditional computing, classical computing, to accomplish things that we didn't think were possible before. All right, so it's a really exciting future coming faster than even I ever thought. Whether we're talking about personal agents, scientific discovery, AI that can solve math better than any mathematician on Earth, new types of video games, new types of content, it's all so exciting and I cannot wait to see what happens. If you enjoyed this video, please consider giving a like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.